All right, today we are diving into the story of one of the most powerful, and honestly, one of the most heartbreaking figures in all of world literature. I'm talking about Karna from the ancient Indian epic, the Mahabharata.
To really get Karna, we have to start with a question that gets right to the core of his tragedy. What if the very thing that made you extraordinary, your greatest strength, was also the seed of your own destruction? It's a heavy thought, right? Let's keep that in the back of our minds as we explore his incredible life. So, let's jump right in. Karna's story doesn't start with a happy childhood. Nope. It starts with a divine secret and an absolutely painful choice. Okay, so picture this. It all kicks off with a young princess, Kunti, who gets this incredibly powerful boon. She can call upon any god and have their child. Out of sheer curiosity, she decides to test it. She invokes the sun god, Surya, and boom, she gives birth to a son. But this is no ordinary child. He is born literally wearing a suit of divine armor and earrings that are fused to his skin. He's invincible from birth. The problem? Kunti is unmarried. Fearing total scandal and disgrace, she makes this devastating choice. She puts her baby boy in a basket and casts him away on the river Ganga. That baby is found by a kind charioteer named Adharada and his wife Radha. They raise him as their very own. And right there, that's the central conflict of his entire life. He's a divine prince by blood, but in the eyes of the world, he's just a charioteer's son. This clash of identity is going to haunt him forever. Now, despite his so-called lowly status, Karna's talent was just undeniable. He was a natural-born warrior, brilliant, but his journey to get the training he deserved was filled with rejection and ultimately a terrible, terrible curse. You can just see how every door was slammed in his face. First, he goes to Drona, the teacher of princes. Drona basically tells him, sorry kid, only teach royalty. Beat it. But Karna doesn't give up. He seeks out the legendary sage Parashurama. Now, Parashurama has a major grudge against the warrior class, so Karna lies. He pretends to be a Brahmin, just so he can get the knowledge he's so hungry for. And this lie, this deception, well, it leads to his undoing. When Parashurama eventually finds out the truth, he feels completely betrayed. And he lays this devastating curse on his best student. At the most critical moment of your life, when you need your skills the most, you will forget everything. This curse just hangs over the rest of the story like a dark cloud. So he's been rejected by the establishment. Where does a guy like Karna turn? This next part of his life is shaped by one single moment of public humiliation that creates an unbreakable and ultimately tragic bond. So imagine this grand martial tournament. The great hero, Arjuna, is showing off his incredible archery skills. Then, this unknown challenger, Karna, steps out from the crowd and matches him arrow for arrow. It's amazing, but just as they're about to duel, everything grinds to a halt. The officials demand to know his family line, and when they hear he's a charioteer's son, they just mock him. They disqualify him right there in front of everyone. In that moment of pure shame, one person steps forward. Duryodhana, the rival prince. He sees Karna's worth when no one else does, and right on the spot, he crowns Karna the king of Anga. That single act of kindness, of respect, earns Duryodhana Karna's absolute, undying loyalty for the rest of his life. A loyalty that, sadly, will lead him down a very dark path.
So for years, Karna fights for Duryodhana's cause, his past seemingly buried. But just as this catastrophic war, the Kurukshetra war, is about to explode, that past comes roaring back in the most shocking way you can imagine.
His mother, Kunti, the very woman who abandoned him, comes to him in secret. And she tells him everything, that he is her son, and that his greatest enemies, the Pandava brothers he's about to fight to the death, they're his own younger brothers. He's the true, rightful heir to the throne he's been fighting against this whole time. Can you even imagine? It's an impossible choice. Kunti begs him to switch sides, to join his brothers. But Karna, he can't. He can't betray Duryodhana, the only person who ever gave him a chance. He refuses. But he does make his mother one heartbreaking promise. He will only try to kill his arch-rival Arjuna. That way, no matter who wins their duel, she will always be left with 5 sons. So the Great War begins. Karna is bound by his loyalty, bound by his promise, and in his final moments, we see all the threads of his cursed life. His birth, his education, his allegiances, they all come together in this perfect storm of tragedy. The day finally arrives. The epic showdown between Karna and Arjuna, the 2 greatest archers on the planet. This is the moment his entire life has been building towards. But, fate has other ideas. And this is where it all just unravels. Destiny just conspires against him. First, another old curse kicks in, and his chariot wheel sinks deep into the mud. So he has to jump down completely unarmed to try and free it. He tries to summon a divine weapon for protection, and at that exact moment, Parashuram's curse strikes. His mind goes blank. The knowledge of his divine weapons? Gone. The invincible warrior is left totally helpless. As Karna is struggling, Arjuna actually hesitates. It's against the rules of war to strike an unarmed man. But his charioteer, who is Lord Krishna himself, reminds him of all the injustices Karna was a part of. And with that push, Arjuna fires the fatal arrow, and the tragic hero's life comes to an end. So why are we still telling this story thousands of years later? Well, because Karna's legacy is just as complex and powerful as his life was. He isn't just remembered for his tragic end, but for his incredible virtues, too. His most famous title is Danveer Karna, the Great Giver. His generosity was absolutely legendary. In one famous story, he literally gave away his divine, impenetrable armor to the god Indra, who came in disguise. He did it even knowing it would make him vulnerable and likely lead to his death. He just could not say no to someone asking for help. So why does his story stick with us? Well, he's a timeless symbol of fighting against the circumstances you're born into. He's the ultimate example of loyalty, even when that loyalty is tragically misplaced. And maybe most importantly, his life is this powerful reminder that even our best qualities, our virtues like honor and generosity, can sometimes lock us into a path of destruction. Which brings us right back to that big question from the beginning. Was Karna a victim of fate, cursed from the second he was put in that basket? Or was he a product of his own choices, his own pride, and his unwavering, fatal loyalty? That's the question his story leaves us with, and that's exactly why it remains so powerful today.